Okay. Now we're going to talk about Nightfall, Darkness Rising at Old Tucson Studios from October of 2007. Now, as time progressed, Old Tucson would decide to begin to manage particular themes for each Nightfall year as they began to progress. This year's theme was vampires. Yeah, that's right. Vampires. But don't get me wrong, this year was a very big deal for my brother and I because it was the first time that we had the chance to participate with Nightfall at Old Tucson Studios. And this year, not only did we have privilege to play a part, but we were given the permission and opportunity to host our own miniature presentation, which played on selected nights. Now, we had discussions with Mark Cato well in advance that year, and when the idea of allowing ourselves to make our own little miniature presentation, while at the same time maintaining the theme of this year's Nightfall, we decided to create an homage to the two characters who hadn't been seen at Old Tucson Studios Nightfall since 1992. Professor William Abernathy, Felipe Dominique Englauer, Archibald Douglas Winchester Exodus Smythe, and his assistant, Max. This was also based on being a sort of Halloween version of the classic medicine show at Old Tucson Studios' regular hours. Now that vampires were in the township of Nightfall, these two grave barriers would help save unsuspecting victims of vampire attacks by peddling vampire protective products. Of course, with these two, they would have nothing adequate on which to sell. Max would either eat up all of the garlic, or have the wrong kind of steak on hand, or just plain goof off. Other presentations during Nightfall Darkness Rising at Old Tucson Studios were Vampire Nightmare at the Grand Palace Hotel and Saloon, which was a high-energy dance and song show. Gross Anatomy, which was another new concept Red Room bloodletting show involving Hyde Symposium, though I feel that this year's show focused on more lowbrow comedy than it had in the past. It also treated traditional characters very differently, primarily that of Kavanaugh and Crazy Sam. The Gargoyles, again, did not make an appearance this year. In their place this year, Transylvania Twins. You had the Iron Door Mine, referred to this time as the Caverns of Despair. You had the Cannibal House, which discussed the lost family of the Lithostromes. And at the Arizona Theater structure, you had Zambora, a creature with very interesting powers. The stunt show was Darkness Rising. It dealt with Sam and Kavanaugh capturing two outsiders from a stagecoach and bringing them to the township of Nightfall. One of them is Michael Van Helsing, ancestor to the famous vampire hunter. Yet another Michael in Nightfall, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to be named Shimp. Anyway, Hyde has brought Van Helsing to Nightfall in order to defeat the one creature that stands in Hyde's way, and that is, of course, Cain, Lord of the Vampires. Hyde's assistant Lilith, a vampire as well, also wants vengeance on Cain. But right then, yes, that's right, you heard right, 4 o'clock in the morning, pool at the hotel, a conflict ensues. Kavanaugh and Michael's assistant are turned into vampires by Cain. Michael fights the vampires, Hyde fights the vampires. Michael, Lilith, and Hyde fight Cain. Cain fights Lilith, Hyde stakes Cain in the heart, but we find out that Cain has no heart, so he can't be killed that way. Michael defeats Hyde, Michael defeats Cain and Lilith, and Michael comes out triumphant. Or so he thinks. And that is Nightfall, Darkness Rising at Old Tucson Studios. Next, we will visit the latest installments of Nightfall at Old Tucson Studios with the Rob Jensen years, starting with Nightfall, Release the Beast at Old Tucson Studios.